Welcome back to another video. It's Bradford v Notts County match reaction. It were a 4-2 defeat today on Sky live television to the nation, and what an embarrassment we were. Again, what a great time it is to support Bradford City Football Club. I can't wait to talk about this one. We're now 19th. We've dropped a place in the league table. We are now 6 points away from relegation zone, and week after week that is becoming more of a possibility where we could be looking at that after every game, and we're looking behind us, but there's not many places behind us now. The structure of the club's not there. You know, we've got someone as our CEO who doesn't know the first thing about football. I'm not going to say he don't care, because he obviously does. He works at that place day and day. But what he's had to do is make Bradford City a business and not a football club. And we are run like a business. You know, we look for profits, we look for commercial deals, and that's what we place above anything else, and keeping the fans on board. And if you don't get results, because football's all about results, and you lose 4 games in a row, you haven't won in 5, you've won 2 away games all season, you keep putting up performances like that, then you've got the structure in the football club that's not there, an owner who's disinterested, managers after managers, players who don't look interested at the worst of times, and players who just aren't good enough. And you're in a relegation battle, the fans are going to go, and there will be fans who probably will say, I can't bother going Saturday, and they have every right to. There'll be fans who wouldn't have gone today who normally would have. Sky, half 12 game, and they're completely right to. And there's fans who won't have gone for many years now, because there's nothing to buy into, there's nothing to believe in. The club's been absolutely drained of all soul that's left in it, and like I say, it all comes down to structure. There's no structure in this football club. Where I look at Notts County, and they are a proper football club. You know, I don't just mean tradition, I don't just mean stadium, you know, the fans are pretty good as well. I don't just mean that. The manager develops the players, plays a really good style of football, and develops the players, gets the best out of them. You know, they've had players in the last few seasons now who have gone on to better things, or have come to a club, not done well at other places, and have been redeveloped, and now they're profitable, but they're not doing that because they're successful. Notts County are now 3rd with 33 points in League 2, and they're absolutely flying, playing great football with a great young manager, but the owners are 100% committed. They're buying into a project, there's a structure in place to look at the analytical side of football to determine whether they go in whichever thing that they're looking at, whether it's players, whether it's managers' style of play. One pretty much like the Brighton of the world in the Premier League, and they're a fantastic club. And for the first goal, again, 5 minutes into a game, and I heard somewhere that in our last 3 games we've conceded in the first 5 minutes. The mentality of these players, it's worrying. It really is worrying, because we start games so slowly, and then last season, and I know it's a different manager, but last season I think we got, I can't remember, I don't know the stat, but we barely ever came back from behind, and I think the points for coming back from behind were probably less than 10, because we never had the mentality to crawl our game back. There was Stevenage, but I think that were one of the only few games that we did that. We were terrible from it, and that were a mentality problem. You know, if you go behind, you're not coming back into a game. And that's what's happened this season. You know, the mentality's on the floor. And again, I'm not saying they don't care, because obviously they do, but the only players who can ever, out of every game so far this season, and today, take their heads half held high, because, you know, even then, it's the bare standard of putting the work rate in and putting the effort in, and then having a bit of quality on the end of that, is Brad Halliday and Alex Gilliard. They put their hearts and soul into every game, and the rest of the players, if everyone played like them, we'd improve a lot more. But the first goal, terrible from Jamie Walker. He switches off in midfield. He sort of comes on the inside, lets his player overlap with loads of space. The defence then, Richards has to come out of the narrow line, and then it all opens up in this gap of space where they pull it across again. I think it might be Nemane. He's got loads of time then to find a cross ball into the box to McGoldrick, who's there waiting for a tap-in. Exactly, carbon copy of what happened last Saturday against Barrow. Early on, players not sticking with the runners, and it cost us. The second goal, Macaulay Landstaff, I can't remember if this is the Pacific goal, but there was one where it was such a... I think it was this one. We were on the attack, and we were going for it a bit because we were getting a few chances towards the sort of middle to late end of the first half, and they carved us open with one pass right in behind the defence. Stubbs and Taylor too close to each other. Macaulay Longstaff has so much time and space because he's got so much pace to get in behind. Stubbs and Taylor looked like they were running backwards. They were that slow. Stubbs was terrible all game, especially in that first half. And another simple goal. He scored again, Langstaff. I can't even remember that one. You watch those goals back, it's just a tutorial of how not to defend. All of them errors, so basic, and you question, how is it, how have we bought them, and how are they so poor? Credit to Notts County, they were brilliant, and we got battered, especially, like I say, in the first half, because of how brilliant they were. And normally it's a 2-0, especially in the first half. But when you're so poor, you can double that because you make basic errors. And I would say, in parts of it, they were putting more effort in, and you get your rewards by putting more effort in as well. I think they were just giving 1% or 2% more, and that makes a big difference. Like I say, for the first goal, Walker switching off, and he puts a lot into the game. Great work rate, you can't really doubt that, but he just switches off in key moments, and that costs us. But yeah, so many errors defensively, and then in the final third, I actually joked before the game, the only way we will score is if it's an own goal, and we did get another through Walker, really good finish, but it did take a shot from outside the box, deflected and going by an own goal. In the final third, we're getting in some great positions, and it's just the final pass letting us down, or it's the final shot, and it's so poor. And Andy Cook, what has happened to that man? What on earth has happened to Andy Cook? 30 goals, about 40 goal contributions. He was on fire last season. No one could stop him. He had to have a couple of breaks in the season around Christmas time after Carlisle, poor game. Hughes took him out, Oliver came in. We can't do that. I think throughout a bit of the season he's been playing through a bit of an injury. Oliver can't come in, he's injured. And so you're left with Tyler Smith, who was terrible today. So poor. Didn't put any effort in. And I don't like saying that, but I don't know if it's a tactic, and if it is, it's pretty bloody stupid. Because he was not pressing at all. And when he did, it was a half-hearted press, which didn't give us anything. At all, because if you did put a bit more effort into press them, you get mistakes from it. And Gilead were getting right on them, and they were making a few mistakes, and you got into areas through them. And then when he did get into the areas to get the chances, he couldn't finish his dinner. He was so poor, and I backed him constantly, and he missed an absolute sitter again. He missed one last weekend, but he scored. He got away with it. But again, it was too much he got too much on the ball, it went right over the bar, so poor. And Andy Cook, again, no composure, and last season, he had 3 or 4 sitters that he would have just took like that last season. Wouldn't have thought about it. Alexander, whoever, the coaches, they've got to have a real word with him, just to try and compose him, and to tell him to take his mind off it when he's in front of goal, because he's not timing his shots right at all, but he's thinking about it too much. He's in those positions, he's taking another touch, and he's taking too many touches because he don't feel like it's a good enough opportunity. But if you just swing your foot at it, it might just go in, and he's taking too long. It's a bit like a darts player when they've got dartitis. He's throwing it and then he's holding it back, and then you lose your rhythm. He just needs to have a swing at it. So he missed so many sitters, which cost us. So when you talk about that, we made too many errors defensively, and we missed too many sitters in the final third when we did create the opportunities, which we did create quite a few really good chances. If you take them, and if you don't make the defensive mistakes, it could have been us who won 4-2, but we didn't because of that. And last season, we were the middle third of the pitch we didn't really care about. We were quite slow building out, and we didn't really create too much, and it was just all sort of poor play. But in the penalty box. Andy Cook was scoring 30 goals. He barely missed a chance, and when he did, he put it behind him, and he could make a goal out of nothing. And in our defensive penalty box, Harry Lewis was making save after save, and for the meantime we were pretty solid in there. This season, we're not scoring those goals. Cook ain't performing, and Lewis is making loads of mistakes, and we're all at sea at the back. And that's where you win games. Whilst we weren't entertaining last season, games are dependent on what you do in the opposition box and your box, and that's where we're really poor this season. That's just the first half. Second half, we were much improved. We changed to a 3 at the back. I was questioning it when it happened. I thought, so Taylor's coming off, Poynton's coming off. I agreed with that, but I thought there were still a couple of other players who I preferred to have come off, and we went to a 5 at the back, a 3 at the back. Really, Kelly came on. He were good. We won the second half 2-0. We got a clean sheet. We didn't really look like conceding. I think McGoldrick had a chance or two. But Platt was quite solid when he came on, and Kelly were really helping with the overlaps as well. Richards were bombing down the left side, and then Kelly had come and overlap, and then you can press them because there's more protection at the back. And I thought, I said in my preview, I'd have set up like that because you've got more protection, so you can get at them a bit more and press higher up. And with a 4-4-2, we got passed through too much. But we did create some good chances, and Allard down the right side got in some good areas. But the 5 at the back really supported that, and I think that's something we probably have to stick with. Player ratings, quickly go through these are quite easy. Harry Lewis gets a 1, made a couple of saves I'd expect him to, and conceded 4 goals that I'd put him to blame with quite a lot of them, and distribution were poor. Brad Halliday gets a 4. I don't like giving players 4 in these, but second half he was the best player on the pitch. And first half he wasn't the best, but he was coping, and he puts his heart and soul into everything, and wears his heart on his sleeve. He's fantastic. Ash Taylor gets a 2. I don't think he was bad as Stubb. He was at fault for a lot of the goals, but like a pace that he's contributing to that. Stubbs gets a 1 because I thought Stubbs were worse, and a couple of the goals came down his side more so, and I just think he's getting a bit of a free ride at the minute. Lacks pace, don't read the game, and he's not very good in the air. I fail to see his attributes at the minute. Lewis Richards gets a 1, again really poor. In the second half he was better because he's an attack-minded left back, and he got into good areas, but his crossing left lacking. It was so poor. Barely got past the first man, and it would have been more worthwhile maybe seeing Wilson as a left wing back, because he came on as a left back in the last game against Barrow, looked good, and when you're wanting to chase a lead, I thought that's something that Alexander probably could have had a look at. Small gets a 2. I thought second half he was one of the better players for us, but that's not exactly hard. But in the first half he was quite poor, so you've got to grade him down for that, especially with a couple of goals. I think it was the first goal, it might have been second, but he sort of bottled the challenge that I think he should have won, and then there were a couple of others where we were just a bit open in midfield where he probably should have had that. So it wasn't his best game this season at all. Gilead gets a 4 again, level with Halliday. One of them's man of match, I'd give it to Halliday, but work rate is always there, always into tackles, always pressing up the pitch, always in the opposition's face. He's always doing the hard donkey work that no one wants to do, and he's always straight in there, and he's fantastic. He's Gilead at that, and players like Gilead you really need in your team because they just raise the standards, and Halliday does that as well. But Gilead in the midfield, you need those type of players, and he was fantastic today. To be honest, in a team that was so down and flat and poor, you need your Gileads to sort of try and raise that standard. So he was really good again today, Gilead. Won't expect anything less. Poynton gets a 2. Could have given him a 1, but I'll go with a 2 because he got dragged off at half time, and no one really wants to see that. But he was poor. They were good. I think he put the cross in or created a chance for Cook that he headed down into a keeper, and that was a really good bit of play. But I don't think it was the type of game for Poynton, and he ain't got much pace in behind. So when you counter in and that's the game plan, he ain't going to be able to offer that. Neither's Walker, and defensively, it's a big ask for him to be basically man-marking David McGoldrick. We're talking about a Premier League player who did a very good job up there, and League One's top goal scorer last season, and he's got that technical ability. He's fantastic. So it's a really hard role for Poynton. and he obviously struggled with that. Jamie Walker gets the 2. Yes, he scored, but he was massively, again, last week against Barrow, for the same thing to happen where he doesn't stick with his runner, and then for it to happen the week after where he doesn't stick with his runner, in the first 5 minutes he's extremely poor. You can't allow that. It's just basic errors. You stick with your man, and if that comes from a goal, you're at fault for that. And I thought throughout the first half, his first touch were a bit poor. Yeah, we're getting stuck in a bit in the middle of the park, but his passing were really poor. But then second half, he was one of the players that massively improved again. But for that first half, it was really, really poor from Walker. But second half, got his goal, really good finish. But if it wasn't that, it would have been a 1. So he gets that level up. And I must say as well, as good as the second half performance was, it's the least you'd expect. You'd expect a reaction at 4-0. You go to a fight back, you're a bit more solid at the back, you attack more, you get the fans behind you after scoring, you get a few chances. But Notts County are 4-0 up. They're complacent. You'd expect that. You'd expect a reaction. It's a new manager. It's the new manager bounce. It's had more bounce than a bloody bowling ball. It just goes flat down. It don't. It's got. It's just bloody. It's rubbish. But yeah, that's what you'd expect in the second half of a game like that. But it's what we do in the next game at Accrington. Do we take that into it? Do we still stick with a 4-4-2? Do we stick with a 5 at the back? Do we press high up again? Do we create as many chances as we did in that second half? If it's the first half for Notts County again, that's when I'm done. We're in a relegation battle now, and the sooner we realise that, the better. We need to get as many points now as we can to get away from that, but then also with an eye on the playoffs, because that's the expectation. With Bradford City, we are one of the biggest spenders with wage budget in the division. We've got the best fans, we've got the best ground, we've got one of the best budgets. Everything's one of the best, but when it comes to owner's structure, it's not, and that's why we are where we are. There's reasons why you are where you are. That the league table don't lie. We are 19th for a reason, and that's because we're just not well run compared to everyone else. That's the reality of it. Unfortunately, you think you might turn a page. You think Sparks might be the right guy, but he isn't. Commercially, I'd love to keep him on, but as a CEO, unless he gets proper football people around him, and at League Two with the budget problems and whatever, you're not really going to be able to complement that as much. So we just need more football people in the football club to help Sparks or not get him out. And same with Rupp, and Gent, because the recruitment. This is why we're having games like these, because the players aren't good enough. Well, like Smith, yes, Tyler Smith gets a 1. Tyler Smith gets a 1, and that's been generous. His first touch was terrible. I've already mentioned him. Didn't have any effort to go and press. Missed some sitters. And I think he went down the tunnel. He might come back, but he's just not good enough. Andy Cook gets a 1, missed sitter after sitter after sitter. But the better thing about it is he was getting in the right areas for the chances, and he was looking hungry. He went over to the fans, but I was gone sort of on the whistle, so didn't really see all of that. But I saw him coming over to him, and they said there was a bit of a conversation, but a few players took him away. But I've already said it. It needs to be sat down needs to go over his game. He needs to be composed. He needs to be told to not overthink it, because he just needs to swing his boot. But I've already mentioned that he was poor, and we were poor. Like the if he did, I highly doubt that he did. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Stephen Rupp. Let me know your thoughts on Ryan Sparks. I don't care if you disagree with me. I won't disagree with you. Well, I will, but I won't be blunt about it. I won't be, Just let me know your thoughts. It's a free space. It's a few minutes, just put in the comments. What do you think about the football club? Will you be going next weekend? What were your thoughts on today's performance? What are your thoughts on Graham Alexander's first 2 games? Andy Cook, what's happened to him? Harry Lewis, what has happened to him? The back line, Ash Taylor, he's always a hot topic. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure that there's a lot of debate after today's game, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. After today's 4-2 humiliation by Notts County. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new and under the road to 300 subscribers, and have a good one.